The New York Jets have agreed on a massive trade with the Tennessee Titans. Jermaine Johnson is reuniting with Robert Saleh, and Tavondre Sweat is the newest addition to the Jets roster. What does this mean for the team moving forward? Did the Jets fleece Tennessee? All of that and much more coming up here on a Thursday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Let's go.
This is NY Flight Jets Talk with Connor Long. NY Flight Jets Talk. We're talking Jets. Jets. NY Flight Jets Talk with special guests. NY Flight Jets Talk. Here's your host, Connor Long. Jets.
What is going on, New York Jet fans? Hello, everyone. Welcome back here into another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk as we come to you guys live right here on this Thursday evening, February 26, 2026. Thank you all for dropping in. Be sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe. That is the free way to support us and the work that we're doing right here on the channel covering the New York Jets all year round with near daily content. So hit like, hit subscribe. That's the free way to support us, what we're doing. Questions, comments, thoughts, throw all of those in the chat. We're going to get to those. Want to hear what you guys have to say. The latest with the Jets, the combine's going on. The Jets just agreed to the first deal that's officially going to be processed at the start of the new league year. The first deal to be worked out among NFL teams for the 2026 season. And joining me today here on the show, front of the pod, the great Justin Freed. You know him from the Jet Press, Jets Twitter. Justin, how you doing, man? And the Jets, never a dull moment, my friend.
No, there never is. It's, slow news day. Not a lot going on in the Jets world. I'm not sure how to heal this time, but, we'll make it work. I appreciate you having me on, buddy.
Of course. Great to be with you as always, Justin. Shout out to everyone watching. Again, be sure to hit like and subscribe. That is the free way to support us right here on the channel. Shout out to you, Tank for Tide, coming in and dropped in 2 gifted memberships right off the spot. Justin, I don't think the Jets are going to be taking Ty Simpson at number 2 overall, but we'll talk about the draft a little later. I want to start with the big news of the day, the big splash, a random Thursday afternoon in February, and Thursday morning it was actually, and the Jets make waves agreeing to, I think, a rather significant deal, sending another first-round pick from that 2022 draft class out of New York, and it's Jermaine Johnson reuniting with Robert Saleh and Aaron White gotten with the Tennessee Titans, a rare player-for-player deal where the Jets get in exchange a former second-round pick who's really, really intriguing in Tavondre Sweat. So just give me your initial thoughts on this deal.
Yeah, I think it's a trade that makes sense for both sides. I know everyone is very quick to jump to the, Darren Muji cooked or Mike Borgos cooked, whatever, fleece of a trade. I think it really makes sense for both sides. For the Titans, Tavondre Sweat, good young player, high second-round pick in 2024. I think he was 38th overall pick or whatever, 6'3", 364 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
This is a big dude. This is a mammoth of a human being. And I would say he's played up to that high second-round pick draft slot over the last 2 years. He played all 17 games as a rookie, graded out as one of the best run-defending nose tackles or defensive tackles in the NFL. And I thought, based on the numbers, again, I need to watch some of his tape because I wasn't watching every Titans game last year. But just looking at the numbers, had a really, really good 2025 season as well. Missed 5 games due to an ankle injury, but he's already one of the best young run stuffers in the NFL. He just wasn't a fit for what they were looking to do with their defense under Robert Saleh. Jets fans know Saleh very well. They know that he prefers smaller, slimmer, more athletic. Now, not that Sweat's not athletic because he's actually very for a guy his size, but generally prefers those Sheldon Rankins types, right, at defensive tackle, and Sweat just wasn't going to be a fit for that defense. There's also some talk out there, and you can ask Titans fans, ask Titans media members. There's talk out there about a work ethic concern with Tavondre Sweat and issues about maybe his weight. He's playing a little bit heavier than they wanted him to. Obviously, that's something that the Jets staff will have to manage and something that they feel comfortable with if they're making this trade. But the Titans are getting rid of a guy that they didn't believe to be a scheme fit, and they're reuniting Robert Saleh with a player who was a Pro Bowler under Saleh a couple of years ago in Jermaine Johnson. Of course, he has torn his Achilles since then, and he came back in 2025 and did not look particularly great, but it makes sense from their perspective. And from the Jets' perspective, you're getting rid of a guy in Jermaine Johnson who, like we just said, he tore his Achilles in 2024, came back last year, played most of the season, missed a few games, I think, because of an ankle injury, but he finished with 3 sacks and 6 QB hits all year as a starting full-time edge rusher.
Exactly.
That's rough. Like, and obviously,
Yeah.
Jets love to see, even now, I would still love to see Jermaine Johnson return to his pre-injury form. But when it comes to edge rushers and Achilles tears, it's tough, man. Like, Jets fans know they saw Carl Lawson. He was, Carl Lawson was an awesome player and
exactly
first camp with the Jets, and he just never regained that form. And maybe it does happen with Jermaine. I don't know. But I don't blame the Jets for kind of cutting bait at the last possible moment to get good value for him. You also save $11 or $12 million in cap space by doing this. And you get a guy in T'Vondre Sweat where you have 2+ years of team control with. So it makes a ton of sense for them. I get the Titans taking a chance on a guy who had success in a very similar defensive scheme and a guy who, Robert Saleh knows him very well, and he plays a more premium position than T'Vondre Sweat, who, even if Sweat hits, he's probably I think he has some pass rush upside more than people might think, but he's a down run stuffer. It's not going to be as valuable as Jermaine Johnson, at least the position that he plays. I think it makes sense for both sides. I really like it from the Jets' perspective. I like T'Vondre Sweat as a player, and I think he's going to be a big part of the defense in 2026.
Very well said right there. And you mentioned the concerns, and I've seen a fair share of that online from Titans reporters, Titans media. I saw a headline that I think a radio guy out in Tennessee called him fat and lazy or something along those along those lines. But at the end of the day, when you look at his numbers, and again, just like you, Justin, I have to watch more of the tape because the Titans were a pretty irrelevant team this past season. But he ranked in the top 10 during his rookie season in PFF's run defense grade, and then he jumped to the 4th best in that metric this past season. So he's an insanely good run stuffer on the inside. Like you mentioned, Justin, just a freakish athlete overall. 6'4", 366 pounds. Look, his relative athletic score, the RAS that everyone obsesses over, Joe Douglas in particular, wasn't particularly great at 4.27, but his 40-yard dash time, I think he ran unofficially at the combine a 5.21, which is just insane for someone his size. That, I think, translates like equivalent in the range, Justin, of a 5'9", 180 type corner running something like a 4.3 or 4, something in that range. Like, it was freakishly good. So the guy's a really good mover. You mentioned who he is as a pass rusher. When you look at the sack totals, they don't jump off the page these past couple seasons, but I think he had a 9.5 pressure rate. It was this past season in Tennessee. He's able to get home. Juwan Briggs wasn't a fantastic pass rusher, his first 6 games with the Browns during his rookie season. Then he comes to the Jets and he gets unlocked, and he is at the top of the team in sacks by the end of the season. And not only does this move impact the Jets and positional value and that component of it, but it also kind of shapes what they're going to do with the rest of the roster. And I think the first name that comes to mind is Harrison Phillips, right? Because he was acquired by this team back in August. Someone I think, from what I've heard, the Jets really, really like. He was a leader in the locker room. He kind of kept this team together through all the highs and lows as a first-year player with this organization. A veteran who's seen it all throughout the league. Kind of reminds me of like a Solomon Thomas in that way, just someone that you want to keep around in the locker room. But his contract's really intriguing, Justin, because he has a $7.5 million cap hit on the Jets' books this season. But none of that is guaranteed money. And now you add another player like Sweat into this rotation. It currently stands Sweat, Briggs, and Phillips as the top 3 guys. What do the Jets do with Harrison Phillips contractually?
I'd like to keep him. I understand, and that was my immediate thought when the Sweat trade went down, is what does this mean for Harrison Phillips? Because Phillips is kind of their, he was their resident run-stuffing one-tech defensive tackle last year, and now you're bringing in a guy in Sweat who can kind of fill that same role. Yep. Phillips isn't a traditional nose tackle in the sense, because I'm not even sure he's 300 pounds. Like, he's not very big. He just plays bigger than he is. Sweat is, a monster.
Ginormous, yeah.
360 plus pounds. So they don't necessarily fill the exact same role, but I would prefer to keep Harrison Phillips. I think his veteran leadership is super important in that locker room. And if you have a front of Phillips, Briggs, and Sweat, I mean, man, no one's running on his team. And that can really make up for the lack of size that you probably have at linebacker. You still have Jermaine Sherwood there, and I thought Sherwood actually did a decent job in run defense. He's just small, and we saw that issue with the Jets linebackers a lot last year with James and Jermaine Sherwood. So now you're going to have Jermaine Sherwood this year. The Jets might go after an Alex Anzalone type. We've heard his name thrown out there a lot. Anzalone, while I would like the addition a lot, and I'm sure Aaron Glenn would love having him back in his defense, not the biggest guy either. So if you're going in an extra
No,
Anzalone and Sherwood as your two linebackers, plus you have Will McDonald or
exactly.
an edge rusher, you kind of need those run defenders, those big-bodied run stuffers in the middle of the field. So I would prefer the Jets to keep Harrison Phillips. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something where maybe they renegotiate or rework his contract so that they give him some guarantees but lower his cap hit. That probably makes sense for both sides, where you keep him on the roster, you give him some actual guarantees there in case of injury or whatever. I believe the Jets did that a few years back with Jamison Crowder, where they lowered his cap hit, and instead of releasing him, which was a rumor at the time, they just lowered the cap hit and gave him some guarantees. Wouldn't be shocked if they do something similar with Harrison Phillips.
Yeah, look, I think he's someone the Jets want to keep around, like I said, and certainly someone I think is worthwhile to keep around, not only by the leadership, but like you said, Justin, he's an effective run stuffer. And I believe he told Richie of Jets Media, Richie Malora, down at the Super Bowl. He spoke a lot about the environment, but Richie also mentioned that he said that Aaron Glenn would call him after every Jet game and rely on him and work together on what to do better. I don't think that is someone that Aaron Glenn lets walk, especially us knowing who Aaron Glenn is as a person, who Aaron Glenn is as a coach, and the traits that he covets in his football players. And you mentioned Anzalone, the free agent linebackers. Certainly want to dive into that because I have some interesting takes. But Lou B pops in with a $2 super chat. Shout out to you, Lou. Thank you so much. Says Connor, this GM will not leave one hole on this team. And Justin, the Jets can really adjust everything on this roster, right? Because you can literally point at every position on this depth chart and say that the Jets need upgrades. Literally every single position, maybe except running back. You could say that the Jets need to upgrade. And the good news is they have the opportunity to do just that. 4 picks in the top 45. Now over $90 million in cap space, which is just crazy to even look at. Over $90 million in cap room. The team has so much flexibility and room on the free agent market this offseason. Staying with the topic of linebackers, you mentioned Anzalone, but two guys I really like who are a little different than Anzalone. They're more of those physical, get down in the box, stop the run type guys. Leo Chanel from the Kansas City Chiefs and Micah McFadden. Those are my two dogs this offseason on the linebacker free agency market. What say you?
I love Leo Chanel. I mean, that would be, if he hits the open market, which that is very much to be determined at this point. He's going to be probably the highest paid linebacker in free agency this offseason. McFadden would be a cheaper option, but I like what you're going for there. Indiana, I think, play that. Yeah, he would be, fit that similar role. If Leo Chanel hits free agency, I would prefer him over Alex Anzalone. I believe he's about
same.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he probably goes about 245, maybe closer to 250. Like, he's a more traditional, big-bodied Mike linebacker. Yeah. The Jets don't have. They didn't have it last year. Jamie and Sherwood was kind of playing that Mike role, and he's really not a Mike linebacker. We saw it both with the leadership, the ability to call out plays, and also just the size. It really hurts him. He's more of a traditional will linebacker, which – the problem was the Jets had two of those guys last year in Quincy Williams and Jamie and Sherwood. And if they do sign an Alex Anzalone, I would also say that Anzalone is probably more of a will linebacker than Jack Campbell playing that Mike linebacker role in Detroit. You don't have that concern if you go after a guy like Leo Chanel or even a Micah McFadden. I also wouldn't be shocked on that linebacker front if they are shopping around Jamie and Sherwood come the draft, right? I think it's going to be a situation where they probably want to get off of that contract. I think they have significant regrets about that deal already in year one. I just don't know what team is going to be willing to take on that contract. Maybe they can phone up an old friend in Robert Saleh in Tennessee and take on that contract. Maybe they call up Jeff Ulbrich in Atlanta, or maybe they call up Cleveland and they're like, hey, look, Mike Rutenberg is the new
exactly. Yeah.
He was the linebackers coach. He was Jamie and Sherwood's position coach with the Jets. Maybe you do something there, especially if, the Browns are picking at 6, maybe somehow you can move up from 16 to 6 and you give up 33 or 44 or whatever, and you throw in Jamie and Sherwood in there. I'm just spitballing here, but these are the teams that I think could maybe be in the market for Jamie and Sherwood just because of past connections. But I do expect them to add a linebacker at some point in free agency, whether that's an Anzalone, which just the writing is on the wall. It almost feels too obvious. I think they also probably are heavy players in the safety market. I think they will almost certainly add at least one free agent, new starting safety in free agency. It's going to be interesting, man. They have a lot of money.
Yeah, Anzalone's obviously the consensus, Justin, because he seems like a cool guy. I haven't met him. I haven't spoken to him. I know you've worked with him a handful of times, so you know
Great dude.
better than I would. Exactly, great dude, and the long hair and the connection to Glenn and the fun name. Obviously, all the ties are going to be heading in that direction. But I'm going to be honest, I just view him as a replacement for Quincy Williams, and this is the same concern that I had before last season. Quincy and Jermaine are very, very similar when it comes to their build, their style of play. I think you kind of need one of those guys to be the light, sideline to sideline heavy hitter. That's the role that Quincy Williams played on the team this past season and the past few years. I think they need someone to really be the big, bulky guy, like a McFadden, like a Leo Chanel, to really complement Sherwood in that way. And the Jets need to get better in coverage at the linebacker position. I mean, Jermaine Sherwood was one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL in 2024. That's what got him that huge contract. He took a huge step back in 2025. Quincy Williams was among the worst linebackers in all of football when it came to coverage grade from PFF last year. So the coverage from the linebackers needs to improve this year, and I think the secondary as well, Justin. There's going to need to be a lot of upgrades there over the course of the offseason. Safety position, anyone sticking out to you through the draft or free agency? Because the Jets had Malachi Moore and Tony Adams as their starters for much of last season.
Yeah, I think like a Cam Curl would be great, or like a Brian Cook. Those guys I think you see them towards the top of a lot of people's free agent wish list for the Jets. They're just going to have to get someone to somebody that ideally can complement Malachi Moore more, because I think they want more as a starter. I would pencil him in as a starter right now going into 2026. I don't think it's like a definite, but just given all of the roster holes that they need to fill and all the new players they need to bring in, a day 3 pick that showed moderate promise and I think can be a reasonable, starting caliber player, even if it's a below average starting caliber player, I think is someone you probably don't want to immediately replace. I think they would go in that direction. If they're looking at the draft, a Dylan Thieneman out of
Love Thieneman
makes a lot of sense. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren's a name that's hot right now.
Toledo, yeah.
There's a few. AJ Halsey is someone that I've liked for a while out of LSU. There's going to be some interesting names there, probably in that early day 2 range, which the Jets have 2 picks in that spot.
Yeah.
Me for a second here, Connor. Back to the linebacker for a second. What if the Jets? I know I threw out the Browns as an option. What if the Jets sign Alex Anzalone in free agency, and you're thinking, oh, they got Alex Anzalone and Jermaine Sherwood. Then on draft day, they trade up from 16 to 6. They give up 33 or 44 or whatever, and they package that with Sherwood. You draft Sonny Styles. Now we got that big dude in the middle of the defense. You got 6'5", 245 pounds, whatever he measured in today. Sonny Styles next to Alex Anzalone. Those are your new 2 linebackers. You get Arvell Reese at 2 or whoever else you draft there.
Yep. I'm
feeling pretty good about that defense. And that, if that's
you're a big Styles guy, huh?
Love Sonny Styles, man. Love.
Yeah, I really like him too, and admittedly, I want to watch more. I want to watch more on all the linebackers. I've really been focused on 3 main positions. I've done all my work on really thus far have been quarterback, wide receiver, and edge rusher. So I'm trying to move back in the secondary. And I like Styles as a player, someone who I think would be a natural scheme fit who the Jets maybe wouldn't need to trade up for. And they could get at the top of the second rounder with that 44 overall pick is Anthony Hill Jr. Out of Texas. Just someone I look at and I think fits perfectly the bill of what Aaron Glenn covets in a linebacker, what one of his linebackers looks like, I think fits this new defensive scheme perfectly. So he's someone that I really like. Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech is another guy who met with the Jets down in Mobile and is just a game wrecker. I think that's the way to describe him. And I'm going to be honest, Justin, I think this is a really bad draft to have the number 2 overall pick.
Because there is a while, my friend. I totally agree.
Yeah, because there is no obvious pick. No matter who the Jets take, from Arvell Reese to Caleb Downs, no matter who the Jets take, Justin, Carnell Tate, insert whoever it is, it's going to be viewed as a reach right away because it's a 1 quarterback draft when many teams need a quarterback, and all these guys are so closely packed together. I think before Ruben Bain's arm measurement came in at a sub 31 inches, it was really Bain, Reese, and Bailey in this pack. And Those were like the three guys. Pick your poison at edge rusher. Then the Bane arm stuff came out earlier today when he measured in at the combine. Carnell Tate is just such a playmaker and such a nasty receiver. 85.9% contested catch rate, such a smooth mover, just everything, could catch in traffic, whole 9 yards. Has been a star since high school with the IMG Academy. But if they take him, it's going to be viewed as a reach. I just think this is a terrible draft to have the number 2 overall pick.
Oh, I totally agree. I've been saying that for over a month now. I said,
oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And I said that on Twitter, and people were real mad. They're like, what is this Jets down? The self-deprecation. I'm like, no, I would be saying this regardless, dude. It's unfortunate, that the Jets are in this position. But yeah, you said it. It's a one quarterback class. Obviously, say what you want about Ty Simpson. I do think Ty Simpson goes round 1, but he's not in the conversation to go number 2. I think you never know what could happen in the months leading up to the draft. I never want to speak in definitives, but he's certainly not in that conversation right now. And normally when you're picking second overall, you either get a great quarterback prospect or the best non-QB prospect, which is in almost every other draft, a blue chip talent at a premium position. The Jets are going to get neither in this class. And that's not to say that Arvell Reese can't be an awesome player in the NFL or that David Bailey can't be great, because they can be. But Arvell Reese, Reuben Bain, David Bailey, all three of those guys, because those are the three players that play premium positions that would be in the conversation at 2. They all have significantly more red flags than a normal number 2 overall pick. Arvell Reese is still the guy I would prefer, and it's the guy that I preferred for a few years now. But Arvell Reese, man, he played primarily off-ball linebacker in college. Yeah. Was the 3rd best player on his defense, right? So you're already being like, oh, okay, we're taking the guy who wasn't even a top 2 player in his entire team on his defense. And his production, the majority of his pass rush production came against lesser competition early in the year. He didn't have more than 2 pressures in a game after, I think, week 7. And again, he was playing a lot of off-ball linebacker, but those are genuine red flags. And again, I still prefer him as the pick, but those are red flags with him. Reuben Bain is a historical anomaly as far as his arm goes. He also, Miami listed him at 6'4", 275. He's 6'2", 263. That's a difference, especially when you have literal historical anomaly arm length.
Yeah, and he's slow too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, parlay that into it.
And then David Bailey, you could argue David Bailey maybe has the fewest red flags, but he's still 23 years old and not a guy that I trust as a 3-down player when he enters the NFL.
Will McDonald. Yeah.
That's not a guy you normally take second overall. So all 3 of those players have enough red flags that you normally would be like, maybe as like an 8th overall pick, 7th overall, like that. Now we're talking. Yeah. Second overall for any of them is a lot, which is why you're going to hear conversations and people already having them about maybe you just take Sonny Styles at 2. Maybe you just take Caleb Downs at 2. I think it's a very complicated discussion, and I get it. In a class like this, I understand the sentiment to say, you know what? The best players in this class are a safety and a linebacker. Why not just take them at 2? I get that. And I understand the argument. Man, I love Sonny Styles so much, or even Caleb Downs, that if they took him at 2, I wouldn't even fully blame the Jets. I'm not going to go as far as to advocate for it, especially because I think, and I tweeted this out today too, I think an under-discussed part of the conversation when you're saying, oh, yeah, why can't we take a safety at 2? Like, through position battle, why can't we take a safety at 2? I get it. An under-discussed part of it is that those draft picks are slotted. Like, the contracts are slotted.
So $50 million guaranteed, I think it is. Yeah.
So if you take, for example, Sonny Styles at 2, he's immediately the 8th highest paid linebacker in the NFL as he enters the league. And maybe you think he's worth that, right? But because you're doing that, it's not so much like, oh, the Jets have the cap space. They can afford that. Sonny Styles is already going to be a top 8 linebacker when he enters the NFL. Maybe you're right, but you're still devaluing the important, like part of the value of having the number 2 overall pick is that you can get a premium player on a discounted contract. You're losing some of that value if you use that pick to draft a player at a non-premium position. That's not to say you can't do it, but that has to be part of the conversation. I think people overlook that.
Well, Justin, just trade back. Just trade back, right? Yeah.
Everyone wants to trade up and have the exact same dilemma that the Jets are in. You're right.
Exactly. Because people, it's the default for everyone every year. The Jets could have the number 1 overall pick or the 32nd overall pick in the first round. The talk will always be trade back, trade back, trade back.
Yep.
No one wants to come up at number 2 overall. If Dante Moore declares and a team like the Cardinals or the Browns are smitten with Moore and they are enamored with him, and I think, honestly, correct me if I'm wrong here, Justin, But I honestly think it would be viewed as a 3-quarterback draft if Dante Moore declared. I think the fact that Moore didn't declare, it has kind of put this like poison, I think, in the mind of that Ty Simpson is just not valued at all. I think it's being viewed as a 1-quarterback draft right now, but I feel as if Moore declared, people would be viewing it as a 3 QB draft. I just think that's how much of an impact that he had. And look, he's very, very different than Simpson. He is more of a he's more athletic than Simpson. He has a stronger arm. He is more of like the prototypical Madden tools that you look for in a quarterback. But at the same time, man, like you tell me the Jets take Simpson at 44, am I going to be like through the moon with it? No, I don't even know if he makes it to 44, to be honest. So I think 33 would be more.
I think he's round one.
I think he goes to Pittsburgh. If I had to make a prediction today, I think he goes to Pittsburgh. I think him and Will Howard competing is a really, really good situation there. They're very similar, like their builds and the traits that they have. I think Simpson is undervalued a little bit. I think he's a very, very good processor who made the most of a not great supporting cast that he had over in Alabama. I have him as my QB2 in this year's draft, just ahead of Garrett Nussmeier, 25 touchdowns against 5 interceptions. Again, just a high-level processor. Great command of the huddle. But again, the issue is limited starting experience. And if you throw him in the huddle with under 20 starts, you're going to get criticism for it, no doubt, because, again, just like Bane with the arms, historically speaking, quarterbacks with under 20-25 collegiate starts typically struggle right away at the NFL level. Thank you all for joining us right here on NY Flight Jets Talk. 162 you guys in the building, 74 on YouTube. Thank you all for joining us. Hit like, hit subscribe, completely free. Helps the channel grow significantly. Justin Free to the Jet Press hanging out with us right here on this Thursday evening. Shout out to Tank for Tysis. Hit the like button, share the video. Connor along the 5K subs by June. Let's hit it. Hey, Tank for Ty. Thank you, man. I appreciate your continued support, John.
Right after this trash talk, Ty Simpson. How could you do this, Connor?
Yeah. I talk so down on him. I'm sorry to do it.
I'm gonna let my cat in my room. Vamp for 2
seconds.
Yeah,
no worries at all. Shout out to you, Take for Ty. Appreciate it. I'll say this: 5K by July 15th, my birthday, and I'll go crazy. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you all. Hit like, hit subscribe. Welcome Justin back here on the show. Shout out to you, Ty. Appreciate it. Shout out to everyone watching again. Hit like, hit subscribe. Go over to the phone lines. First up here on the show today, Jamie joining us, a Chiefs fan, so perhaps a Leo Chanel expert. Joining the show, Jamie. How you doing, man?
Good, bro. How you been?
Doing well.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been just working a lot, so I haven't been around. I haven't been on the show much or anything.
No worries.
Dude, if you like Leo, then I got to tell you, he's probably pound for pound one of the strongest guys in the game, dude. Mm-hmm. He's a beast. He's a beast. We got to do a bunch of changes, but I like that we're getting back to the run game. Always like that. I guess that's my favorite thing is we got Bieniemy back, so we're kind of doing a hard reboot. You get the run game going. That brings the linebackers in to stack the box, right? And then your tight ends open up. And we play two tight end game. And now they're opened up, so the corners have to come in and cover the tight ends. What's that open up down the sides? Speed, right?
Yeah.
And so we need Bieniemy to be heavy with his run game because it opens up Andy Reid's scheme. You know, it's the perfect storm, and the Chiefs are about to come back. But I'm not here for the Chiefs, bro. I'm here to say, like, I'm pretty happy you guys are making good moves. I was wanting to ask you this for a while. What's your favorite single? Look, I know how your brain works, bro. You have all the stats. You know everybody. you're just super smart like that. If I needed a new GM, I'd be like, hey, let's look at this Connor kid over here. He's football, you know. But what's your single favorite thing that's happened so far this offseason?
This offseason for the Jets?
Yeah.
Or all year since the deadline? Any move that they've made?
Yeah, pretty much everything that happened since we kind of knew our teams were out.
I'm intrigued to hear what you have to say, Justin, but I'm going to say the Sauce deal.
Are we including the Sauce and Quinn?
Yeah. He said Jamie said everything that's happened since they've been effectively eliminated. Yeah.
I mean, if we're including that, the Sauce trade's probably towards the top then for that. I mean, it's aged extremely well since they made that trade. It's a trade that I think a lot of Jets fans even liked at the time. And now seeing the Colts collapse and seeing that there's a good chance they run it back with Danny Jones next year, post Achilles now, we'll see. But I feel pretty good about that the Jets have the 16th overall pick as a result of that they have a first round pick next year too. If not that, I mean, it's hard to love any of the coaching staff stuff. I don't hate it, but I'm not like doing backflips about a lot of the coaching decisions.
They hired Brian Duker. That's not your favorite move, Justin?
It's fine, man. Justin. They brought in Seth Ryan to be their passing coordinator. Awesome, incredible, fun stuff. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the Sauce trade, we can include that. I like the trade today too. Like I like Devondre Sweat a lot, and I think that's a good move for the team.
Yeah, that's a good move. Hey, Justin, it's nice to meet you. You're pretty knowledgeable about the Jets. When I was a kid, that was my first game, was a Chiefs-Jets game. So I've always kind of like been
an
around.
Iconic matchup.
Yeah, I was like 82. I don't remember. It was, and you guys came and kicked our ass. And so I've always just been like, what's the Jets been doing, And so here I am trying to show you guys I am Jets friend.
Yeah, listen,
thank you.
The Chiefs got out the mud. The Jets got to follow them. The Chiefs were terrible forever. They got out the mud. Now look at them. The Jets got fixed.
Whole life, man. Just this last 8 years, I was in a fantasy. I was in my childhood fantasy, bro. It was
for sure.
Cool. And so I just don't think it's over. I don't think we're gonna have to wait a decade like the Patriots had to wait. I think Mahomes is gonna get one of the next 3 rings that comes up. I
hope so. I got Mahomes is my dynasty my fantasy dynasty. So listen, I hope he comes back strong. I hope he does well.
Bro, I'm so blessed because this kid, he restructured again and saved us like freaking $48 million, man. Like he wants to win. He's got a whole bunch of. The good Lord didn't put no quid in that one, And man, are you guys back to the Jets? So are you guys pretty down with letting Glenn have his chance to have his vision grow here? Because last season there was a lot of naysayers, man, and I was like, give the guy a couple of years, like give him some space,
Yeah, I like that he's calling plays. That was a preferred outcome. Who knows how much Woody Johnson might have had to do with that. It does seem like his original plan was that Wink Martindale was going to come in and be the DC. And I know Glenn just spoke this week and said otherwise, but I don't know if I fully believe that. But I am happy that he's calling plays. I think that is a better outcome for the Jets than if Wink Martindale was the guy here. And, look, the players seem to like Aaron Glenn. I know those report cards came out today. Aaron Glenn an A. So the players all love him. They believe in his vision. Obviously, year one could not have gone much worse for the Jets, both when it comes to, Justin Fields and, they were 0-7 and they tanked for the final month of the season. And as we talked about, Connor, they didn't even get a great prize out of it because it's not even a good year to the overall pick. No. So it's not if they started Brady Cook for nothing. But, look, I want the guy to succeed. He's a Jets legend. He seems like a really good dude that is beloved by the players. I'm happy to see him get a second year. I don't think firing him in the offseason would have I don't think it would have been a great situation for the organization if they fired him after 1 year. I think the optics of that would have been very bad. And Woody Johnson would have been paying a lot of money to a new coach that I don't think he would have wanted to pay. So I'm happy for him. I hope that it works out. I have my doubts still, but I really want to see him succeed because he seems like an awesome dude.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of piggyback off that, and I think it's hard to have hope, to be honest. When you look at what happened last year and compare it to the 4 coaches who, after starting 0-6 with a new team since 1980 in their first year, have gone to the playoffs with that same team, that list being comprised of Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Shanahan, Zach Taylor, and Dan Campbell. I think the similar theme that appears in all 4 of those guys is that they showed substantial progress throughout year one and continued progress throughout the season. The Jets did not show that. They got off to an 0-7 start, and right when we thought they were turning a bend, and I wrote an article to hype Jet fans up over at Jet X talking about how, this path is similar to what happened with Dan Campbell his first year with the point differential and then staying competitive, and they won 3 out of the 5. They scored first against the Patriots. They had a lead over the Ravens at halftime. Everything's going in their direction. Then they just collapse, starting right at that Miami game after they were just uncompetitive the second half of New England. So, look, I'm going to be honest,
bro. That bad season, that probably is less painful for a Jets fan than me watching a Three Stooges episode every single week and knowing my team was out of the playoff run by week 6. Okay, come on. 7 years of being spoiled.
Absolutely. Jamie, thank you for the time, man. You got any final thoughts?
Love you guys. Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
And, keep being you guys. I get my news here, so.
Hey, brother. Love the beard, brother. Appreciate you.
See ya. Shout out to Jamie right there, bringing the heat as he always does. As StreamYard kicks me off the show. Justin, want to wrap with some quarterback talk. Final segment. I feel like every day it's a new quarterback. Tanner McKee's going to be the Jets QB. Nope. Malik Willis is. Nope. Tyson Bagent is. Wait. Kirk Cousins is. No, it's gonna be some new name as it is.
Carson Wentz. Yeah, Carson Wentz.
Andy Dalton. Panthers are fielding calls.
Run it back with Justin Fields.
Aaron Rodgers reunion in free agency.
Zach Wilson. Oh.
Hey, there we go. Every day, Jeff Drixel, Ben DiNucci. Are we throwing out all the names? Then Hooker.
Luis Perez over here from whatever league he's playing in now.
Love it. Your prediction, week 1, who's the Jets quarterback? How do they handle it this offseason?
Man, I got no clue. What I think the Jets should do. I think they should take a page out of the Giants book last year, where they kind of just take a lot of, no pun intended here, but they take a lot of dart throws at the position, and they just, the Giants went into last offseason and they're like, all right, we're going to bring in Russ, we're going to bring in Jameis, and we're going to get Jackson Dart, and one of those guys is going to be good for us. And you know what? They were right, because Jackson Dart did some good things for them. Russ didn't work. Jameis was okay. And, Dart did a couple of good things for them. But I think the Jets should do a similar thing where ideally you sign a vet, whoever that is. Maybe that's a Marcus Mariota variant of some kind. Maybe the Panthers release Andy Dalton or whatever. You get a vet in here some way, and it's some veteran that you feel at least moderately comfortable starting a few games for you next year. You then pair that with some young flyer quarterback. And I'm not necessarily saying a draft guy. I'm talking a Will Levis. I'm talking a Tanner. I'm talking a Davis Mills and Anthony Richardson. Someone, and I have different opinions on all those guys. Like, I'm not saying they're all in the same tier for me, because they're not. But that's hype.
Yeah. Jalen Milroe is a really, I don't mean to cut you off and I want you to finish, but Jalen Milroe is someone I wrote about it a couple weeks ago. He's someone who I really like to fit that bill.
Yeah, he'd be in that category as well. And, obviously that would be, you want to run a similar offense probably to what you tried to do at Fields next year. If you bring in Jalen Milroe, it'd be interesting for Reich. Reich hasn't worked a ton with quarterbacks like that. He worked with Bryce Young in Carolina.
Yeah, and that was disastrous.
That did not go well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you bring in someone like that. And then you also, I would like to draft someone either late day 2 or early day 3 would be my plan. So if you end up with, and look, the options aren't good here, but my preference would be some quarterback room that's something along the lines of Marcus Mariota plus Will Levis plus Drew Aller or Garrett Nussmeier, something like that, right? Is that a good quarterback room? No. Are you likely drafting a quarterback again in 2027? Yeah. But at least you take 3 swings at the position. You don't fully punt on quarterback for a year, and you don't tie yourself to a Kyler Murray that, I think there's more upside there. And I wouldn't blame the Jets for doing that, because Aaron Glenn and Darren Moosey are trying to save their jobs. So they're going to get whoever they think the best quarterback in games for them in 2026 is. But as a fan that is looking ahead to 2027 as well, I'd prefer they didn't do that. I think of those young guys, the ones that intrigue me the most, I like a Will Levis swing. I think that actually could be a lot of fun. And I think it's probably the most realistic because, first of all, the Jets and Titans front offices have now worked together twice on trades in the last 6 months. So there's connections there. They clearly feel comfortable working with each other. Obviously, the Robert Saleh connection helps too. Yeah. I don't think Will Levis will be valued by the Titans nearly as much. Like, people could point to like, I would like Davis Mills on the Jets. I think that'd be a great pickup for them too. I don't know I don't know how much the Titans are valuing him. They might really value him as a backup, as a decently affordable backup. Will Levis, I don't even know if he's going to be QB2 next year in Tennessee. They already have Cam Ward. Levis is coming back from a pretty serious injury, so who knows what his health is like right now. From 2 staffs ago at this point, I think you can get him for pretty cheap, for like maybe a day 3 pick swap. And if you take a flyer there, you swap a 5 and a 7 for Levis, you sign Mariota or whoever, and then you draft Nussmeier, it's fine. I think that's a fine quarterback room.
Serviceable.
Yeah, there's a couple of things to get excited about while also having the steady floor of whatever vet you bring in. Makes sense.
Yeah, look, I for sure, I like it. Well said there. I kind of have a bit of a different approach. I have the thought of getting a bridge who fits the mold of what Frank Reich looks for. Jacoby Brissett being the most obvious option. However, I don't think that's as realistic as we think, to be honest, especially if they release Kyler, because he was a really good passer last year. He had his best statistical season, arguably in his NFL career, as a passer last season with Arizona, well liked in the locker room. And I think if they're gone with Kyler, they're not going to take a quarterback in the top 5 of the draft, and I don't think there's anyone in free agency, to be honest, who's really more appealing to them than Brissett. So I think that might be a little more unrealistic than we're talking about. But someone like that who fits the Frank Reich archetype, a Carson Wentz, I'll bring up an old friend, Joe Flacco, is someone who I honestly wouldn't hate to fill that role. And then the second spot in that QB room is to the developmental guy, someone you take in the draft, guys who fit what Reich looks for, as I talked about in the Gen X column. Sawyer Robertson from Baylor and Drew Aller from Penn State that you mentioned are 2 guys who fit that mold. And then third guy, just a mentor, like a Tyrod Taylor, someone like that who could kind of just be the mentor at the back of the room, kind of the coach within the room. I think that's super valuable. And look, I'm definitely not opposed to your route. I think the Jets are going to keep Tyrod Taylor. I think he's going to be on this roster one way or another. I think the Jets are going to sign someone in free agency, and I think the Jets are going to draft a quarterback. So that's kind of just the consensus that I've come to. But ultimately, there are so many routes they could take, and I mentioned this on my pod yesterday with Samini. I was talking to the agent of a quarterback whose name has kind of been tied up in all these trade rumors, and the agent pretty much told me, like, Connor, the combine is when all the league personnel, all the executives, all the media, they get together, and it's obviously there are exceptions, like the Jermaine Johnson deal just went through. They agreed to terms today, and it's going to go through when the new league year starts. But typically, especially on the quarterback market, he told me this is the time of year where teams just gauge interest. So look, all the trade rumors that you see, so-and-so fielding calls, blank interested in this player. I think it's more so just gauging interest than actually building out the framework of deals for the most part. But obviously, Justin, over the next few months, there's going to be no shortage of topics for us, both of us, to cover. A lot to look forward to. Thank you for joining me as always, my friend. You got any final thoughts, football related, non-football related, before we let you go?
Yeah, man. I feel like we're finally getting into the thick of the offseason. You know, it's been a quiet few weeks, kind of post Super Bowl, especially for the Jets, post all the coaching fallout.
Yeah.
You know, we're really getting into the thick of it now. Jermaine Johnson, we got the combine, and free agency's here soon, dude. Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about free agency, and that is, I'm sure, going to be a wild time for both of us. I'll plug my stuff while I get the chance.
Absolutely. I was actually just about to say that.
There you go. I didn't know. I didn't want to.
Yeah. No, you know it, of course.
Yeah, you can follow me over on Twitter at Justin C. Free. Follow the Jet Press at the Jet Press. We do a podcast every week, me and my buddy Mike Luciano, on the Jet Press YouTube channel. So you can subscribe there. We do daily TikTok as well. We've really gotten into doing more video content these days. We're gonna have a video go up tomorrow on YouTube where we Mike sat down with Justin Mello, who is a great draft analyst.
Draft Network.
Yeah, Draft Network, previously Draft Network. Now he does on SI. He's the leader for the I think he runs the draft content at Sports Illustrated. Also runs our Titan site, Titan Size. So he knows a lot about T'Vondre Sweat, and he kind of gave us a little inside knowledge about T'Vondre Sweat and what Jets fans should expect from that trade. That video is going up, I think, tomorrow, like 9 a.m., something like that. So if you want some more insight on Sweat and that trade and any other Jets content, you can check us out. We did a couple of streams the last 2 days because there's been a lot to talk about.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on as always.
Of course. Subscribe to Justin. Subscribe to the Jet Press. They do great work on YouTube. Weekly pod, what is it? Wednesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon? You guys are on every week, barring the emergencies?
Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern time. I should have mentioned that. Thank you for pointing that out. And then today we did an emergency pod because there's a lot to talk about. And again, I feel like in come free agency, we're going to do some more of those emergency pods because there's a lot going on in the Jets world right now.
Hell yeah. Follow, subscribe to Justin and the Jet Press. You know where to find me on Twitter at Connor_long15. Read my work, jetsxfactor.com. Hit like, hit subscribe. We're back tomorrow. Brian Costello of the New York Post will join us. So another fun guest. Stay tuned, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. For Justin Freed, I'm Connor Long right here on NY Flight Jets Talk saying have a great rest of your evening, everyone. And as always, JTS, baby. Jets, Jets, Jets. Peace out.